Hello, I am Asmita Saha and today I will be talking about carbon emissions and the global economy. Since the Industrial Revolution, the global economy with high energy consumption and high emissions has grown rapidly and has become the main driving force for the sustained growth of the world economy. However, long-term dependence on the industrial economy to promote economic growth will inevitably consume a large amount of fossil energy, resulting in continuous increase in total carbon emissions. Since the reform and opening up of the two-wheel drive of industrialization and urbanization has promoted the rapid growth of China's economy. From 1979 to 2016, the average annual growth rate GDP was as high as 15%. Statistics show that in 2000, China's per capita carbon emissions were 2.697 tons, while in 2011, per capita carbon emissions increased by nearly 3 times, reaching 7.242 tons. China's total energy consumption in 2016 was 4.36 billion tons, and its carbon dioxide emissions reached 10.21 billion tons in an unprecedented way, making it the world's largest carbon dioxide emitter. The continuous accumulation of carbon emissions creates a range of environmental problems such as global warming, rising sea levels, and frequent outbreaks of extreme weather. From the birth of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change to the signing of the Kyoto Protocol and the convening of the Copenhagen Climate Conference, a series of environmental problems caused by carbon emissions have received increasing attention from all countries. Japanese scholar Kaya believes that the driving force of carbon emissions in a country or region mainly includes four major factors, namely population, per capita GDP, energy consumption per unit of GDP, and carbon emissions per unit of energy consumption. Economic growth affects the total amount of carbon emissions, but in turn, the amount of carbon emissions reflects the degree of economic development. There is a mutual two-way causal relationship between the two, and actively developing a green economy can effectively reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. With the rapid economic growth, the marginal carbon emissions shows a downward trend, and economic aggregates become the main driving factor for the increase of carbon emissions. At the same time, the economic growth rate contributes 43% to China's per capita carbon emissions, showing an exponential growth. The COVID-19 crisis in 2020 triggered the largest annual drop in global energy-related carbon dioxide emissions since the Second World War, but the overall decline of about 6% masks wide variations depending on the region and the time of the year. However, a rebound this year is almost certain, according to the scientists, because the drop was the result of temporary behavioral changes rather than structural reforms. China's emissions may even be level for this year or have increased slightly since 2019 as the country entered and left lockdown sooner than other countries. According to some of the data that was fed into the final assessment, there are many ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the industrial sector, including energy efficiency, fuel switching, combined heat and power, use of renewable energy, and a more efficient use of recycling materials. Many industrial processes have no existing low-emission alternative and will require carbon capture and storage to reduce emissions over a long time. The experiences of many OECD countries in recent years have also shown that the environmental policies and regulations can help the economy thrive rather than hinder it. From 2007 to 2012, OECD countries reduced emissions by 7%, while their total GDP grew by nearly 13%. It is imperative that countries achieve this decoupling and reduce carbon emissions ideally through a carbon tax to ensure a more sustainable and prosperous economy. Failure to act or acting too late will result in even further climate breakdown, affecting any chance humanity has of extending its lease on the planet. Thank you. That is it from me.